What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am here with Season 3, Week 5 of the Major Pokemon League against my good friend Danekii. His team is the St. Louis Sableyes, and he's a pretty good player, to say the least. He was an all-star in our March Madness tournament here a few months ago, and he's just proven himself time and time again to be a very competent player in the format, to say the least. But with that said, he has kind of been tilting lately, and that's a little unfortunate for him, but I guess with that in mind, maybe this matchup won't be as hard as it could have been, but even so, he's a good player. I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm definitely going to have to prepare for to the best of my ability, given the amount of time I have to put into this team, which isn't very much, but that's beside the point. Anyways, his team, he has Weavile, Goodra, Greninja, Megalodios, Scolipede, Registeel, Imbor, Jolteon, Golurk, and Slurpuff. So, first things first, he has exactly one way to get rid of hazards, that being the Megalodios. And if Megalodios is pressured to use Defog, that significantly reduces the amount of other sets it could run, making it essentially much less of a threat than it would have been otherwise, as I think Megalodios personally is pretty broken if it's not forced to be a defogger every single week. But it is forced to be a defogger if he wants to ever get rid of hazards. With that in mind, I'm bringing Stealth Rocks this game 100%, and I'm going to try to get them up as early as possible. In terms of the bigger threats on his team to mine, the Weavile and Greninja are both pretty large threats to my team because they are so fast, and if I don't have the rain up, therefore not outspeeding it with my bulkier stuff, then I'm basically going to be forced to take a lot of hits from those threats with my bulkier things, and that's not exactly something I want because that will break me down to the point where he could probably sweep with other things on his team. So that's just something I do not want to let happen, and with that in mind, I'm going to try to keep the pressure up this game. Not necessarily a hyper-offensive playstyle, but I'm going to play a balanced playstyle that strongly supports rain sweepers. So I'm bringing the rain this week, guys, and I'm pretty excited to see how that goes against Danekii. So other threats on his team, Scolipede can be a threat. Fortunately, I do have a handful of switch-ins to it, but just in general, Baton Pass sets are a little bit of a nuisance. The good news here is that the MPL follows the Smogon Baton Pass rule in that they can only pass one stat, so the worst they could do is pass speed. The other relatively large threat to my team is the Imbor. Granted, in the rain is not quite as big of a threat, but if I don't have the rain up yet, then it definitely can pack a punch against my team, especially a Banded Flare Blitz. That I can't switch into that. That's painful. I could switch into Politoed with Drizzle. That would take it pretty well, but otherwise my entire team really does not want to take Banded anything from the Imbor. However, I do think it's pretty likely that he'll bring Grass Knot on it, meaning that a Banded set is pretty unlikely. I think he might bring a Life Orb or Expert Belt set. Those are more probably more likely to come this week, as I don't really think he'll want to be choice locked into something, and the same applies to Choice Scarf. Obviously, he's probably not going to want to bring that because one, it doesn't outspeed any of my rain sweepers in the rain, and two, if he's choice locked into something, then I can take advantage of him very easily given the power that resides in my team. So that's about it for the threats. Honestly, he doesn't have a ton of threats to my team. Goodra is pretty good against rain as well, just in general, so there's a good chance he'll bring that, but even if he does, I think I've constructed a team that can handle it pretty darn well. So let's go ahead and jump on into the team I decided to bring this week. I'm starting it off with a Scizor that is itemless. Now this is going to be my dedicated answer to Weavile, as the only kind of Weavile set that beats this Scizor is a Natural Gift Fire set. And if he brings Natural Gift Fire Weavile against a rain team, then that's pretty awesome, because I would not have expected that. And even if he does potentially have Natural Gift Fire, I can easily scout for it by switching into things like my Swampert, which can eat any hit from a Weavile. I can also switch into something like a defensive Sylveon, switch into a defensive Politoed, even Sableye. All these things on my team I can switch into pretty darn easily against a Weavile just to scout for that natural gift. So that's why I really like the team that I've constructed this week for this battle. But in general, this is kind of it's a defensive pivot. It's going to be able to switch in against a variety of things on his team, including the Megalodios, as this is a fantastic pivot around the Megalodios in that I don't expect HP Fire this week. He probably needs Defog. He probably wants Psyshock, especially if he's going to have Calm Mind. I could see Calm Mind, Energy Ball, Psyshock, Defog as his moveset this week, as Energy Ball lets him hit the Swampert as hard as possible, which is a very big threat to his team otherwise, and Psyshock allows him to Calm Mind alongside my Sylveon and beat it 1v1 because it's so bulky that I actually cannot two-hit KO a Megalodios if it sets up a Calm Mind in my face, essentially. So, or at least with a standard Sylveon spread. So yeah, it's kind of a threat to say the least, but this allows me to be a bulky pivot around the Mega Latias. I can switch this in, U-turn on whatever he wants to go for, easily break a substitute if that's what he tries to do, and then I can, of course, have a free switch into one of my threats to the Mega Latias. So this is definitely a solid mon against him. This also is a good switch into the Scolipede, as this definitely slows down the Scolipede shenanigans, as he has to run Hidden Power Fire to hit this very hard, and given the fact that I have 252 Impish in defense on this Scizor, I can definitely eat up anything from the Scolipede, especially with Rain Up. If I have Rain Up, then the Scolipede cannot touch me, so that's pretty awesome. And I have Defog this week because I have learned my lesson now that this team does not function if hazards are on the field, so I need to make sure to keep hazards off the field the rest of the season, and that will be the goal. So that is the Scizor. Let's move on to the Megapert. This is a rain setter, not necessarily a sweeper, although if you look through his team, he really doesn't have anything for this. I really only need Earthquake. The only thing he can switch in to an Earthquake is the Mega Latias, but I would rather get the Mega Latias Toxic than Ice Punch it. So I decided to run Toxic in that would-be attacking slot here, as he does not have room for Refresh on his Mega Latias. There's no way he's going to do it. If he runs Refresh, he's going to also have Recover and Calm Mind most likely, and then he'll either have one of his stabs. He'll either have Dragon Pulse or Psyshock. Depending on which one he brings, I have both Sylveon and Sableye to be immune to that set. So I do not expect Refresh on a Mega Latias this week, therefore Toxic in it will be detrimental to it. And the only way he'll be able to get rid of it then is through Heal Bell Jolteon, and I really do not expect Jolteon to come, considering I have Thunderous T, Mega Swampert, Sylveon. I have so many things I can switch into Jolteon very easily, even Doug Trio to trap it, so I don't think Jolteon's coming. But yeah, this is my rocker. I like to get rocks up as soon as possible during the game, and of course I have Rain Dance to let my Swampert do some work late game if need be. Next up is if I can find my mouse, the Sableye. This is a Damp Rock set with Rain Dance, Recover, Will-O-Wisp, and Taunt. The EVs here allow me to always survive a Scarfed Emboar's Flare Blitz, which is pretty nice, just in case. And obviously, if I get the Rain Up as well, I can survive a Banded Blitz pretty easily. And with the Rain Up, Scarfed Flare Blitz does not 2-hit KO me either, so that's pretty cool. So that's kind of a double perk to having Rain Dance on this. It allows this to also be a nice check to Emboar. And on top of that, setting up a Rain Dance with a Damp Rock gives me 8 turns of rain to do some serious work with the Mega Swampert and the Armaldo here, which I'll show soon. So overall, this is pretty good. Taunt is here to shut down the Mega Latias, as if I run Taunt plus Wisp, then I can most definitely wear down the Mega Latias. There's no way it can take me out, especially because it needs more than +1 to be able to beat me 1v1. So this is, yeah, a pretty good mon against him overall, I believe. And on top of that, it's also EV'd such that it always survives a modest Gudra's Draco Meteor, so I can obviously recover up on the Draco Meteor and survive the subsequent ones and be in pretty good shape there. This does not survive the Specs Gudra's Draco Meteor, but I think if he brings Gudra, it's going to be Ass Vest, so that it can best take hits from things like the Sylveon, maybe do a little work to it that way. It also allows it to take hits from Serperior, as Serperior is a pretty big threat to his team otherwise, so I do expect Assault Vest to Gudra if he does bring it. So I think this is pretty good overall in the matchup as well, and Will-O-Wisp of course is pretty nice for the Weavile just in case it gets out of hand, as well as a physical Greninja if that's what he decides to do, and a Belly Drum Slurpuff as well. So next up is the Armaldo. This is a Swift Swim Sweeper with Life Orb, Earthquake, X-Scissor, Swords Dance, and Low Kick. That coverage hits its entire team very, very hard, and quite honestly I'll click mainly X-Scissor this game. I'm pretty confident that's going to be the case. The only time I'll do anything different is against the Registeel and against the Emboar. Earthquake hits the Emboar, and a Low Kick is for the Registeel. I only need about 25 to 30% of damage on a standard Registeel. If he runs some defense on it, then I need a little more than that, but I can just straight OHKO the Registeel after a certain amount of damage is applied to it, and if it's a Chopper Berry or something, obviously I need more than that, or a Swords Dance or something to take it out, but overall this is pretty strong against him. The EVs here allow me to outpace a max speed Jolteon in the rain, which is really the best I can do here, because this thing is actually kind of slow. Base 45 speed is very slow, especially for a Rain Sweeper, but in the rain it is doubled, and that's plenty fast enough to get the job done here. So that's this set. Next up is the Politoed. Now this set is pretty unique, and maybe not so much if you saw my week 3 match against Asteroid, in that this is a Perish Trapper set again. Now the reason why I think this might work again is because I am running Rain Dance on both Swampert and on Sableye. Therefore, I can switch in Politoed with the Rain up, and my opponent will have no way of knowing if I am Drizzle or Water Absorb. So, if my opponent doesn't know if I'm Drizzle or Water Absorb, and they see the makeup of my team, they have to assume I'm a Drizzle Politoed, because I have everything on my team that benefits from the Rain in this build. So he's going to assume Drizzle Politoed, and therefore I can disguise this Politoed as a Drizzle Politoed and go for the Whirlpool. And the reason it's disguised is because Whirlpool and Drizzle are not compatible moves. I can't, or moves and abilities. I can't have those together, and if I'm able to disguise it, then it doesn't matter, so it's good enough that way. And I would love to be able to Whirlpool Perish Song down the Goodra, because Goodra is a pretty annoying threat for a Rain team, to say the least, and if I can just take care of it that way, that would be fantastic. This also is a good trapper for the Mega Latias, potentially. I don't really expect a subset, so if I'm able to get off a Perish Song plus Whirlpool against that while he's trying to take me down with Thunderbolts, then I could definitely see myself taking down Mega Lati with this. And finally, on top of that, this also, at least the Perish Song in general, is really nice for the Slurpuff, just in case it gets a Belly Drum off, and maybe my Scizor was weakened to the point where or maybe my Scizor's gone or something like that. It's just good to have Perish Song there as a last resort to keep me alive. And finally, the Registeel as well. This will help me take that down such that my Armaldo can sweep easier, such that my Swampert can sweep easier, stuff like that. And Sylveon, for that matter. If Registeel's gone, Sylveon just has a heyday against his team. So next up, and finally, is the Sylveon Kabaya Berry, such that I can take a Gunk Shot from the Greninja, as well as a Poison Jab from the Scolipede, as well as a, what was the other one? Poison Jab from the Weavile. So all those, it makes for a great lure for all of them. Granted, I cannot OHKO a Scolipede, but prior damage on that puts it in Bullet Punch range from Scizor, and that's really what I'd be going for in that circumstance. And I think that'll do pretty well. Now I have Heal Bell here on this set, such that just in case he has T-Wave on his Registeel and tries to Thunder Wave my Armaldo that doesn't quite take it out with a low kick, this will give my Armaldo another life, and let it continue its sweeping duties after it weakens the Registeel. So that's why I have Heal Bell. I definitely played with the idea of Calm Mind to try to 1v1 the Mega Latias, but Mega Latias is so bulky that it doesn't matter if I have Calm Mind, so he can still beat me 1v1 as long as he has Psyshock. So there's not really a point in having Calm Mind on this set. So yeah, I would go into the details of the EVs, but I don't exactly remember what they are at this point. Feel bad about that, but I believe I had enough special defense investment to survive. What was it? I think, okay, the EV spread allows me to survive any Hydro Pump, like Life Orb Hydro Pump plus Gunk Shot from Greninja after Rocks. So that's what it was. So I'm able to essentially beat any Greninja 1v1 with this set as long as I'm at close to maximum health. So there you go, that's the team. And kind of like last time, I didn't put the most time into the team, but I still think it came out pretty well. I think my matchup this week is significantly better than what it was last week against Blake. But, you know, I'm pretty confident in the team. I think it's good enough to do the job. I just have to play at the best of my, top of my game to make sure I come out on top against a player the caliber of Danekii. So, let's go ahead and hop on over to the battle, and we'll see what happened. Okay, so at Team Preview, you can see that he brought Mega Latias, Registeel, Weavile, Scolipede, Emboar, and Greninja. So, it's a pretty threatening squad, to say the least. I'm pretty surprised to not see the Goodra, as I thought Goodra was really one of the best possible answers to Rain, but I guess he just felt that it didn't really have enough utility this match outside of being, you know, a hydration rest user, because my Rain sweepers are all physical. That's a thought process that I can definitely respect, and I assume that was his thought process as well. But just in general, in terms of win conditions this game, Sylveon's looking very, very good if I can weaken the Registeel, as I was kind of anticipating, but he did bring the Emboar, so Sylveon's only a win condition if I can have the Rain up supporting it to the point where Emboar cannot take me out. Something to keep in mind, but I do definitely want to keep my Sableye at least alive. Doesn't have to be healthy. I just want to make sure I can get off a Damp Rock Rain Dance at some point in the game, because I really do see the combination of Mega Swampert and Armaldo coming through strong this game. He really does not have much for it whatsoever. In terms of my Politoed's duty this game, probably going to be to switch into Emboar, because it's really my best to switch into Emboar. It's the only thing that really can switch into Emboar with the Rain off the field, so that's going to be its job, honestly. And if Emboar goes down early with Politoed still at a decent amount of health, then hey, maybe I can trap the Mega Latias or trap the Registeel, or even switch into the Greninja if I have to. But as of right now, it looks like he's going to be relegated to dealing with the Emboar. And outside of that, Scizor looks pretty good too. I think my whole team's looking looking pretty nice, so I'm definitely happy with my prep this week. So let's go ahead and hop on into the battle and talk about the lead matchups a little bit. So when I was thinking about this team, I had a couple ideas in mind for a lead matchup. I could lead Sableye, I could lead Mega Swampert. Both of those are pretty good because I do want to get the rain up as early as possible, and it doesn't really matter what he leads with in that case. I did decide to lead on that Sableye, which is fine. I'm not going to go straight for the rain dance because that will make sure he kills me with a Hydro Pump. That's not something I really want to let happen. I'm just going to go for the taunt just in case he is a spike stacking Greninja, which I think is quite possible against my team, especially considering I haven't brought hazard removal the past 2 weeks, but I do have defog this time. Regardless, I'm going for the taunt here. I think that's my best play, and he can't OHKO me with anything. Now here I have the option of either going for the rain dance or switching out and preserving this for later. I have the designated switch in named Sylveon. I am going to go ahead and switch into Sylveon right here, as I guess he tries to predict my switch into the Swampert and goes for a Grass Knot here. Maybe the Politoed, probably the Politoed, and goes for the Grass Knot. And luckily that's not my counter, no, not my number 1 counter, it's my number 2. But Sylveon does take 0 from that Grass Knot. Now here he does fall for the lure, goes for the Gunk Shot. I assume he didn't really expect to see the Kebi Berry on the Sylveon, even though I think it's somewhat obvious, but regardless it did work out here, and I'm able to survive the Gunk Shot and take him right out with the Hyper Voice. Now I'm very glad I didn't overpredict on this turn, because I almost did. I almost tried to pull a double into my Scizor expecting the Registeel, and very fortunate that I did not overpredict here, because I didn't really want to take the unnecessary damage there. But down goes the Greninja, and now he goes into his Scolipede. I'm not going to stay in. This still has utility against the Megalodios, at least until I'm at lower health, so I am going to go ahead and swap on out into my Scizor, I believe. Gale Force is the Scizor, and Scizor can take up any hit from this. I don't expect him to go immediately for the Hidden Power Fire if he has it. He decides to just go for the Substitute. Now here, I felt that my best play was probably to scout for the Hidden Power Fire, despite the fact that going for a U-turn would give me momentum and on the chance that he goes for a Baton Pass here. I think it's more important to keep my Scizor alive just in case this is a lure of his own. So I'm going to go ahead and hard switch into my Swampert, expecting potentially a Hidden Power Fire, but also knowing that I can essentially handle his entire roster regardless with this Mega Swampert if need be. So he is going to Baton Pass out, which is a little bit scary because now we know it's a sub-pass Scolipede. Anything can come in and be essentially protected by the Substitute, and he goes into Imbor. So this is terrifying, to say the least, as I don't have a real switch in. I probably could switch in decently well, but I don't have an amazing switch into this Imbor. But I am going to go ahead and switch straight on out into my, go into my Politoed, as I can take any hit from this. Even if it's Life Orb Wild Charge, I can survive 1. I don't think he's going to go for a Wild Charge against the Swampert, though, and he just goes for the Grass Knot, which was more what I expected. It reveals a Life Orb here, which is pretty good information to have, most certainly. And I am actually going to go for a Protect on this next turn to scout for the Wild Charge. I thought he would have Wild Charge. I thought it made a lot of sense against my team. Maybe something like Head Smash, Wild Charge, Flare Blitz, and Grass Knot was the coverage that I was anticipating, unless maybe it's a subset in its own. I'm not really sure. But he goes for Head Smash against this. So here, I make a little bit of a risk potentially. I didn't really feel like I could switch in anything else, though. I kind of wanted to switch into Swampert to scout for Wild Charge, but I didn't think it was worth it. Politoed is good in the matchup, but it's not incredible by any means, especially because I'm not like a Drizzle set anyways, and I've already revealed that I'm not Drizzle here by not having the rain up on a swapped in Politoed. I was just kind of forced to do so, unfortunately, but I am just going to go ahead and survive the Head Smash. Fortunately, he did not have Wild Charge, or at least didn't go for it. I'm going to take out the Substitute with a Scald, leaving my Politoed as essentially death fodder. However, with all the leftovers recovery and protect, I am able to get myself back up to a decent amount of HP if need be. Now here he switches out, which is a play I kind of disagree with. I think he should have just went ahead and taken me out here. As I guess my most likely play was go for a Protect. I guess that's what he was predicting. Maybe he just wanted to get up his Mega earlier, which is a respectable play. That's fine. I don't really see an issue with that. Now here I have the opportunity to either go for a Protect on my own or go straight for the Perish Song, and just in case he went for a Calm Mind, expecting that, that's what I'm going to do. I think it's my safest play. I don't really need to go for Protect. I'm not going to survive anything from this anyways with another Protect, so I might as well just go for the Perish Song just to be safe, and he just goes for the Energy Ball and takes me out. So I'm going to lose my Politoed here, but it's good information refreshing to know that this thing has Energy Ball. I kind of expected it regardless, but it's good for that to be confirmed at this point for sure. Now here I'm going to go into my Sylveon. Rocks are not on the field, so I know I can survive any hit from this. If Rocks were up, I probably, or maybe might not have survived a Psyshock from this, especially given how much damage that did. It looks like it does indeed put me in Rocks range, so with Rocks up I would not have survived, but I'm pretty fortunate to be able to survive that and get off a Hyper Voice, put in this thing in guaranteed range from X-Scissor from the Armaldo. It also puts him in theoretical range from an Ice Punch from Mega Swampert, so he definitely has to play very carefully around the Mega Swampert at this point. Now here he switches into his Scolipede. I don't really understand that play personally. I'd be interested in hearing his commentary on that. But he takes a critical hit Hyper Voice, which is pretty nice because it puts him in Bullet Punt range easily as well as Stealth Rock range. So now I'm just going to switch into my Scizor, as I don't want to take a Poison Jab. I think that's probably what he might go for. He might go for a Mega Horn. That seems more likely, but he actually goes for the Rock Slide there, which is fine. That's not a bad play by any means, and I essentially take 0 damage from that. But as you'll see, that little bit of damage actually could come into play later on, which is pretty interesting, but we'll get there when we get there. So now I am just going to go straight for the Bullet Punch. It's my safest play, no reason not to, and he goes into his Registeel, which is fine. If it's not a Leftovers variant, this is slowly chipping him down to the point where it's in range of Armaldo's Low Kick as well as Mega Swampert's Earthquake. Here I'm just going to go for the U-turn as well. I think I guaranteed outspeed this given my investment. I had a little bit of speed investment on this as well, and max speed Registeel is just not a thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and U-turn on this and go straight into my Mega Swampert, as this will give me the opportunity to 1, lay my own rocks, 2, get up a Rain Dance and really start plowing through his team, as at this point he's essentially in range of a lot of my stuff. Now here he goes for Natural Gift, which was kind of frightening. I'm fortunate that that wasn't like Natural Gift Grass or something. That would have definitely hurt the Swampert a lot, but it was Natural Gift Fire, and that probably would have taken out my Scizor at that range if I were like a Superpower variant and tried to stay in against a Registeel to get some damage off. So I'm pretty fortunate to not get hit by that heat, but definitely some cool prep on Dan's part there. Now I'm just going to go for the Rain Dance, as it's my best play easily, and just in case he wants to switch into something like his Emboar or something faster like his Weavile, this will let me outspeed that. I don't really think he was going to make that play, but regardless, Rain Dance was my best play because it supports the rest of my team so well. Here he's going to go straight into his Scolipede, as I'm just going to go for the Stealth Rock on this turn 100% because it would have ensured the KO on Scolipede unless he got off a Defog with the Mega Lottie. He makes a good play going straight into it here, but with the rain up it doesn't really matter because I still outpace this and I can just take it right out with an Earthquake. And Mega Swampert's looking like a threat right now to his team, especially considering I can OHKO the Weavile. If I had Ice Punch, I'd be able to OHKO the Mega Latias as well. I believe he has the Registeel left as well as something else, and Registeel is going to come in here. Now here, I have 2 turns of rain left, right? So I'm expecting him to expect me to fall for a Lure and go for Earthquake here as he goes into his Mega Latias. So I go for Toxic on this turn expecting that. But I guess that's an over-prediction. I don't know. It made a lot of sense to me. I didn't really think I lost anything from making that play. I thought it was a very obvious lure on his end, but I guess I was wrong there. He was just sacking his Registeel, which is fine. I'm going to take it out with an Earthquake here, or so I thought. It actually survives. So I'm guessing that was, you know, like 1 or 2 HP remaining as he goes for another Ice Punch trying to get the freeze. Instead gets a crit, which I am A-okay with. I'd rather have the crit than the freeze, for sure. Now here he's going to actually swap out I believe into his Bianca, which is the Mega Latias, but with the rain going away, I am just going to go for the Rain Dance on this turn just to keep up that offensive pressure, especially for the Armaldo I have in the back. And here's the point where I can see the end game in sight, as I have a Sylveon that's in range of Stealth Rock, and I have a full health Armaldo which can take out the rest of his team from the range it is at. So I am going to switch in my Sylveon here to sacrifice it to the Stealth Rock, such as to ensure that he can't get off a free Defog here, because if he got off a Defog and was a Sashed Weavile, that could be a hard time for my Armaldo trying to sweep. And this also gives me the free switch into Armaldo as soon as possible to have maximum turns of rain. He does indeed go for the Defog, so that was a pretty nice play on my part, in my opinion, because it does prevent that Defog and makes Armaldo even more so of a threat to the rest of his team. As here I can go straight for an X-Scissor. It's guaranteed to kill anything that comes in. I think he's just going to sack off his Registeel. I could have gone for the Swords Dance to assert dominance, but I'm not that kind of guy. I don't really need to at this point anyways. I could take out the rest of his team with no problem, so I am just going to go straight for the X-Scissor, and he dies to Stealth Rocks and doesn't get to face that. So we are sitting at a very strong advantage at this point, considering the rest of his team is slower than me with the rain up, and I have super effective coverage for all of it. So here he brings in Imbor. I am safe to go for the Earthquake. I don't think he's going to try to switch into Lottie to stall out a rain turn here. That doesn't make much sense, especially considering I can easily have something like Aerial Ace or Rock Slide to take this out, considering Rock Slide is stab, and that definitely would take out Imbor from that range. But down it goes to the Earthquake, and now all he has left is the Mega Latias and the Weavile. He makes a good play going into Mega Latias first, maybe trying to go for a game with the Weavile if he can get a series of critical hits, and he would need a critical hit knockoff from the Weavile as well as Natural Gift Fire to beat my Scizor. No, that wouldn't beat it either, because if he's Natural Gift Fire, he'll die to Bullet Punch. Maybe Natural Gift Fire, Max Defense Weavile would have a chance to beat my Scizor. I think that's what it is, and then he could potentially sweep my team from there. That's the only way I think he can win at this point, but I don't see that happening, honestly, especially considering this thing has a ton of bulk, and unless he's Life Orb, I actually have a chance to live this. Even if he is Life Orb, I apparently have a chance to live as well, because I do at 2 HP. And it is, let's see, it did not reveal Life Orb. It did not reveal Life Orb, so I apologize for that misstatement there. But it was not a Life Orb set. Cannot take out my Armaldo with a knockoff, and I'm able to take it out with an X-Scissor, and that is the game. Now, it's worth noting that it does say Asteroid here. I was not actually playing Asteroid. It was... It's kind of a funky setup, I guess, on Dan's end. His DS is getting repaired right now, so he has people play for him, but he tells them what moves to make. So I was technically playing Danekii, even though it was on Asteroid's cartridge, and just something to note there. But that was a nice 4-0 victory for the Toronto Staraptors, so we rebounded nicely from our loss last week to Blake. And I have been thinking about that game last week a bit, and I think I have a much better strategy in mind for how to approach his team next time, and I think I can do it a lot better then. But for this week, we come out victorious, and we now let's see, I am currently 2-1 in the league, but my team's record is I think 2-3 now, so I still got some work to go to get back above 500, which is the goal. I want to finish the season above 500, and maybe I can still make the playoffs despite my 0-2 inheritance, but I guess we'll see what happens there. But good game, Dan. It was a good match. Obviously, you know, you could have made some better plays here and there, but in the end, it still was a pretty good match overall, and it was fun to finally be able to face you after meeting you through March Madness. So that's the game, and we next week have another match against Cypher, I believe. Yeah, we have Cypher next week, which is pretty fun. We did play him in NPL Week 2. That's the National Pokeball League Week 2. And we came out with a pretty narrow victory, although I felt my game plan worked exactly as I wanted to in that match. And I think we can game plan appropriately for Cypher in the Major Pokemon League as well. And definitely looking forward to that as always. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next week. Peace.